So what I'm going to do now is block out the mouth and finish the ears. So let's grab our Move Topological brush. And you can see here I didn't save my configurations from last time. So if you wanted to, you can expand this side. And if you don't have your brush panel here, you can drag it over. And, holding Control and Alt. Ooh, I'm sorry, I forgot to turn on Preferences, Configuration, um, and enable Customize. Control and Alt here, and just snapping it to the bottom here. And you could do it as you go too. So BCBs, clay buildup, I use that a lot, right? Here it is. Just placing them down here. And the Z Modeler brush is another one. So anyway, so back to my Move Topological. I'm just gonna pull this forward a little bit. And this is where you can kind of, after you've got some nice geometry placement here, you can go into areas like the nose and just start to finesse those areas a lot, right? Like, how does it fit in the front? Use brushes like the inflate brush to give you a little bit more skin in this area. The thing though that you have to remember, and a lot of people when they're doing this exercise, is they start to actually look at the features like, okay, well, this is the nose lining up, which is good, but you have to always stay on task. And I know that's hard coming from me because I love to jump around. I love to talk about a lot of things from my life, and especially when I'm in class. But the task here is to create these faceted chunks so that we can look at the way lighting. We're going to move the lighting around in ZBrush after this, and um, and see how the light hits the patterns of this. And then we're going to actually add our own, a couple more facets in here so you can see the way that works. And that really is going to help us conceptualize our model. So let's finish up the mouth, but just so you know, like the bigger picture. So what I'm doing here is, and again, that's Shift P to hide those guides. I'm looking to really finesse that muzzle area. See that? So it gives me a nice ground to work from. And then I'm going to add a little bit more geo by using my Sculptress brush here. So I'm holding Shift and I'm going to just turn it on like this. And using Shift, I can just sort of, I'm actually using a tablet now, so I can kind of control the pressure there. Just adding a little bit of geo in there, so that um, when I go in now with my Damien Standard, I can, I'll have the geometry I'm looking for. So let's bring those guys back, and let's hide that. And then with Damien Standard, BDS, and you'll see now it's up here. We can drag and drop it down there. And the way you save your UI, I don't remember if I did that. I told you that, is you inside of here is you have this save UI button, load UI button, and then store configuration. So let's do that, right? So say I'm happy with this. I go to save UI. I'll save it in the planes of the face, and then it'll save it, and then preferences. Um, we have store configuration. It says master configuration has been saved successfully. So now every time I open it, it has these three brushes. You want to be careful with that if you're using a machine that a lot of people use, because every time somebody else opens the machine, they're going to see your configuration, which um, for me got a little bit annoying. All right, so remember that this is not perfectly lined up. It's a little bit wider on this side. See how it goes all the way out there? And we're always working on our right side of the model. So I'm only going to go this far with my Damien Standard. Something like this. And I'm going to check it, and you're going to see it's flat and our mouth is still rounded, so we're going to have to always go back and adjust it. And I'm actually going to go below this line because it's a thick line, a thick drawing line. Otherwise, we'll have no area here um, to really detail this area that goes in here between the nose and the mouth. So just a little bit below it, I'm going to give him I'm holding Alt to actually push out that top lip. I'm just going to take it in like that. Okay? And generally your mouth, like we will pull it out a little bit, so it should come somewhere close to the side of the eye. So let's do the same thing here. Just kind of detailing that. And then let's go back and grab our Move Topological and just give this a nice, again, nice curvature in that shape. And you're going to do each lip individually. So I'm just holding Alt and just inflating that a little bit. And then in the side view, I'm going to play with moving these around. So see how this isn't as far back as it should be. So what I want to do is just sort of move all of this geo back. And it's going to create a little bit of pinching because there's a muscle that comes and it wraps around that way. So it's going to look a little strange for a while until we fully adjust it. So let's kind of just pull this back. I'm holding shift here, give me a little more geo, cleaning it up. Smooth that out a little bit more. Let's actually turn the Sculptress off. There we go. Let's pull this way down here. Let's pull this forward. And the lips come around like that. And I've lost a lot of that shape in here, so I'll just go ahead and finish smoothing it out. And let's pull this way out a little bit here so that it goes to the center of the eye. Now what I'm going to do at this point is retopologize to clean up this geo. And you can see even by pulling it down, because it's not lined up perfectly, what we got is a lip that's way lower than our actual reference image. And we need to inflate that area up a little bit. So once we retopologize this, so let's go ahead and go to geometry, ZRemesher, just so we can hold that shape. Okay. Just grabbing my move topological brush here, and I'm just going to hold Alt and push all this out, a little bit of smoothing. Now you can see that our lips are forming out a little bit more. It's got these pretty full lips. Let's subdivide this one more time. And I just grabbed my dam standard here. I'm just going back in to redetail a lot of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is let's I was going to try to do a little bit of sculpture stuff, but let's delete lower, turn Sculptus on with Damien Standard. Just throw those guided edges in just so we could see them. Alright, and then I'm going to grab my clay buildup just to finish filling it out. And I'm just lightly with my clay buildup going over it. Now this is the way I would actually create more realistic lips. Now this character, we're going to smooth all this out later anyway when we do the faceting, but it's just as a placeholder so that we've got those marked in. Alright, so I know the lips are a little large because it's based on the reference. We will have to go in and just really scale a lot of this stuff down later. And that's the thing with using drawings as reference, especially those of you, when I used to do like models for Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, you're working from an orthographic view to a perspective, which is essentially what we're doing here. And you're like, a lot of the time you're going to be like, what the heck, why isn't it looking exactly like it? And it's just because you're working with a surface with lighting in different shapes opposed to something that's flat. So and you believe it or not, this is what this character, you're like like kind of like you ever see those, what would Homer look like if he was real things? Well, that's what you're sort of doing here. Let's round this out a little bit more before we remesh it again. It's a little bit better. I'm just kind of building this out, and what we're looking to do is it's a lot wider in the front. It's a nice curve, the lips, and then making sure that we match our reference. All right, now for the ears, what I'm going to do is append a we'll do a cube. You could do a cylinder. It's really anything because we're going to ZRemesh it anyway. But here's my cube. I'm going to hit W and move this cube out, scale it in, move it to the side here, scale that in, rotate it. I'm going to give it a little bit of width like this. And then, oops. What I can do is unlock this and then reset the pivot, relock it, and then just move it in like this. and then I'm going to hit Q, and then just with my move topological brush, I'm going to give him a little bit of a thicker ear. Let's hold shift here. But you can see, oops, I got Sculptress on. I don't really want to add at this point geo, but this edge here of my cube is going to serve as the cube of my box. So let's hold shift and smooth this out. Okay, I'm going to push this in, go pretty big with my brush, and just place it so it matches the shape. And I'm actually going to inflate this a little bit more because oftentimes when the geometry is too thin, and you go to ZRemesh, it'll create this, what it's called, Dynamesh Swiss cheese. So if you ZRemesh it, and it has it. So this is kind of pretty good. So B, I, and N is my inflate brush. Let's add that to our stack too. So control, oh, I think I turned off enable customize. Let's add this guy down here. And just inflate the area around the lobe like that. So it looks kind of good, something like that. Before we go in and like sculpt out the nuts and bolts. So let's do the Z plugin and then subtool master, and then we're just going to mirror this, and then I'm going to hit OK. And let's make sure our symmetry works, because oftentimes that can get screwed up. And I'm going to Dynamesh this now. So let's move this up, and let's merge these two guys together, merge down. And then under geometry here, Dynamesh. Let's see what 128 gives us. It doesn't look bad. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Alright, so with symmetry on here, I'm going to go ahead and just grab my move topological and just shape this a little bit on both sides. This doesn't look bad. And what we'll do in the next video is we have kind of this Aquaman character. I'm using a lot of like superhero references as I go through this. What we'll do in the next video is we'll just knock out a planes of the face and maybe look at lighting if there's time.